Welcome to the Creative Soul Healing Podcast. Here we talk about the connection between creativity and healing, and how we are creative and how creativity helps us heal mentally, physically, and emotionally. Join us now. Hi everyone, Larissa Russell of Creative You Healing, and today I have with me Erin Reed. Erin brings a fun, romantic, and sometimes funky feel to her projects. I love that line. She has been called the Queen of Layers. Her first love is family. Her second love, crafts in all forms, including card making, scrapbooking, art journals, mini albums, mixed media, altered items, home decor, watercolor, DIY, kids crafts, and so much more. I don't know how there could be more, but and she has been published in many magazines, books, and websites over her 12 plus years of professional crafting career. She has worked with and helped create products, video content, graphics, and booth design for many big name crafting companies. She has most recently launched her own digital content of graphics and SVG files for all kinds of fun, creative projects. She also loves to create video content for all her creative endeavors, and you can find her latest creations on her social media channels, Erin Reed Makes. So welcome, Erin.
Hey, so fun to be here. Wow, that sounds like when my life is like in a nutshell. It sounds kind of different. Like I wrote
when you hear the bio, yes, when you hear the bio, it's like, ooh, I sound important.
Ooh, I sound more important.
I know. I often think that. It's like, oh, you just put down the things that you do, and then when you hear it read to you, it's like, wow, look at me.
A lot.
we need to celebrate that more. It's so true.
We do.
So can you tell us a little bit about how you became who you became and what you do, and a little bit of your story?
So I have been crafting and creating ever since I was little. I can remember, always doing a little bit of something. My grandmother was very, crafty. My other grandmother painted. It was just, there was always kind of creativeness around, and then Girl Scouts and things like that. And then also, being in Canada Girl Guides at the time too. So there was always something creative happening. And as you get older, and I had a science career, I used to actually be a high school science teacher for a number of years. Didn't really be creative. I didn't have the time for it most of the time. But then life throws curveballs. And so the big curveball in our life was we had a daughter who passed away. And she was 4 months old. And that was my last day of teaching because I was at work. And my way of coping, along with going to therapy, was, and at the time, I don't think I fully understood what I was doing. It was just my natural, I gravitated towards it, is I created. So I wanted to see her pictures every day. It was just, and I had a 3-year-old son. So my time to be creative was late into the evening. So I'd be up until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And then, luckily my mother was nearby. So she'd help with my son in the morning. And that was just a total mess at the time. And so, but I would scrapbook. So I would see her pictures and I would scrapbook. And I didn't want to just do like plain scrapbooking. So I'd go online and I would start, delving into, at the time, it was like scrapbook.com had all their forums, which they still do. And they would have their big galleries and there would be kit clubs. And I would just start kind of going down the rabbit hole, on the internet, and looking to see what was out there and just getting ideas. And some people had tutorials and some people had maybe they were like step out tutorials about how they did certain techniques. They would write about it and then I would try it. And I was going, the teacher side of me started eking itself out again, going, well, I could do that too. So I started my first blog. And I look back at some of the very early posts that I did, and it was just like, oh my goodness, but we all have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so then I started looking, and everybody had blogs. This was back in about 2009, 2010. So my daughter passed away in early 2009. And, in the course of that next year, everybody, that blogging was such a big deal at the time. And everybody had their contests and they had their linkies that you would go in and you could submit. If it was on your blog, you could submit your project to those blog posts. And I started getting brave because I would take the pictures to put on my blog, and I'd also put them up on like scrapbook.com. And so I started putting myself out there, entering to win these contests. And maybe it was to get a free digital file or to get like some ribbon or whatever it was. Just I was like, oh, I get supplies just for entering if I win. And what I mean, like I entered into contests, I would sit there and I had like a whole list on my computer. I think I had like 40 different places that had contests, like weekly, bi-weekly. And I would just create what I wanted to create. And I would go in to see what would fit into their whatever. So sometimes like 2 of them would work for me. Sometimes 15 of them would work. It was just totally random. But I started putting myself out there, and some companies saw what I was doing and started reaching out, and I got asked to be on design teams. And then I saw like, oh, well, this is a thing to be on a design team for companies or for, individual people that had ribbon companies, or they just had a kit club or things like that. So I put my hat into the ring for doing things like that. And I got on some, and I didn't get on a whole bunch. Got told no way more than I got told yes. But I was like, well, if I got one, yay. And then it just kind of kept going and going and going. And eventually some companies were like, well, we pay. I'm like, well, that's even better, and then it really started kind of morphing from something that was my therapy to something kind of fun, and I enjoyed it, and I needed to be creative every day. And this gave me goals because I had a deadline that I needed to meet. And it gave me specifics, and I needed that structure. I needed that vein to be in and something else to think of and get my brain around. And especially going to sleep at night, I'd be thinking about, well, what next project, instead of my brain going into a whole different direction of where it shouldn't needed to go and didn't needed to go, because all the different PTSD issues coming back. So it gave my brain a different avenue to go down, because I was thinking, okay, well, what's the next project I can create? What's the next thing? And then I went down the rabbit hole of video. So then it's morphed to here.
It's morphed to here, it's quite a big year. It's like, that bio says, all the things that you do, and it's amazing. And and one of the questions I always ask is, what does healing with creativity mean to you? And I mean, I think that's a perfect example, but maybe you want to expand on that a little bit.
So going back, it gave my brain something else to think about. So when I am in the creative mode and I'm thinking about what project, and for me, it's driving in the car. So, because that's where I was driving to the hospital to find out what was going on, because I didn't know yet. So that's a big trigger for me. It's gotten way better over the years, but also going to sleep at night when there's nothing else going on, it's quiet. I still sometimes have to sleep with the TV on to kind of drown out the noise, but it still gives me something else. Okay, well, what other projects? And my mind can go in a different direction about the creativity side versus dwelling on the negative. And the sad and the depressing and the, just the bring me down. I don't like being down. I hate that feeling of just, I like being up and happy and excited. I thrive on that level. And so thinking about being creative and then doing it and coming down. And so that, of course, well, at least for me, I'd start dreaming and I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh, I have this great idea of what I can do. And it would just kind of go and snowball from there. And then I'd have to get into my studio and start creating and doing fun things. And, now again, still working with my companies, I have the deadline. So it's forcing me to come in here and be creative. And it's definitely work now. It's not a creative outlet like it used to be 10 years ago. Now it's okay, I have a deadline for a job, but I still get to be creative. And I thrive in that mode of doing, getting my hands, whether it's creating digitals and having fun. So sometimes I'm just like, okay, well, let me just think about a new collection I want to play with, or let me just think about a new thing, because I'm in kind of a funk, and I'll just start playing with graphics and getting in there and kind of doodling around with that. Or I'll come in, I'm like, okay, I just got this new product. Let me just sit and play with it for half an hour and see how I like it, or what it's going to do and how it works. And I've given myself structure. Like I have a card making Wednesday every Wednesday. So every Wednesday I'm going to be creating cards and like getting in there and being creative. So I have to build myself into a schedule, kind of like to force myself into my creative art therapy, if that makes sense.
It absolutely does, because I'm the same. I have added programs because I needed that creative time. It's like, okay, we're going to do this now because I need it. So that's the thing. So
it's kind of like
understand that.
My scheduled therapy every Wednesday.
Yes, exactly. Mine is an alternate Tuesday and Thursday, but yes, because I can just go in and create and not have to think, and we hang out, and it's just a lot of fun. And so it's just a creative time, right? And
yeah.
And when you get busy with the business part of being a creative, it definitely is nice to schedule those in for yourself.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, my heart goes out to you, because I don't think any parent should ever have to bury a child. And so my heart goes out to you to have experienced that. Um, I do think when we can put that negative into a positive, that's not quite the words I wanted to use, but you've turned it around and used your therapy for yourself, if you will, into this thriving business that, I love when I see people who get free products and they get to try things before, everybody else gets them. And so I always think that's so much fun. And that's not quite what I do. So it's never going to happen, but I just think it's so much fun. And so I love watching those. It's like, oh, when is that coming out? Because I need it, right? So
yeah,
you get to try all the things
the FOMO
first.
issue, right? I've solved that FOMO issue because I now get all the fun things from different companies, and some I don't even ask for. They're just like, we're going to send this to you. I'm like, okay.
Sure. I'll try it out. Yeah, which is super fun. Yeah, that's super fun. And so this whole creative endeavor, like, you've built quite a business from this, like, not just, and one of the things that, people often think, because of our culture, is that there's no money in being creative. There's no money in being an artist. There's, and you are an example of how that's not true. There's many of us that are examples of how that's not true.
I wouldn't say I'm a bajillionaire, but no, I do bring in a profit every month. So.
Exactly. I don't have to go work in a cubicle any longer, and I'm very grateful for that. And
be my cubicle.
Yes. But mine is starting to feel like a cubicle as it's starting to like close in on me with all the supplies. I need a bigger space, but yes.
Have you seen the floor below me? I've got bags of things that you should see, like the desk. I don't have my camera set it, but I'm in the middle of filming reels, and so I have all these products, and I've got things going on, and so it's just kind of everywhere. And there's 3 boxes just over there that came in, and you should see the storage unit that's full of stuff. I mean, it's
I get it, and I don't even do product placement and all of those sort of things. And I must have that because we can create new things with it, and so I totally understand it. But the whole thought behind, the starving artist, if you will, how did you change your mindset about that, or did you, or how did that all come about for you?
So I can actually pinpoint to a very specific moment where that flip happened. So I was working, and I was on design teams, and I wasn't on any paid design teams. All the design teams I worked with I was getting product. And at the time, I was very satiated with that. Since then, I've been a very big advocate to companies that, look, you can't just pay your designers, they're marketing for you. This is just a soapbox for myself for a minute, or for everybody else who's out there. They are doing a lot of work for you. They have built up their social media. You are utilizing them. You need to pay them. And if what you can afford in an affiliate program, that's awesome. If what you can afford is a monthly stipend on top of, do not ask them to pay for the product that you are now getting free marketing for. So, artists should be paid in whatever capacity you are able to pay them in, and you can't eat paper or glitter. Money is key. They are paying for their website or whatever it is. Their time is also a huge factor. Yeah. So I was at a conference, and I was chatting with a friend, and she has an amazing YouTube channel, and I'm going to give her a huge shout out. Her name is Shannon Green. And at the time, I had just barely delved into YouTube. Like, I was just dabbling my foot into the idea of video content, and I hadn't really found my groove yet. I was actually kind of treating it more like a slideshow reel versus an actual YouTube video. But after chatting with her and talking with her, and she had already had, I think she was at 20,000 subscribers. So I kind of like, oh, she's where I'm at now, which is fantastic. And she's been doing it for a little while, and she's got a great personality. She was telling me she was actually bringing in money from her YouTube channel monthly. And I was like, that's a real thing. And I knew you could monetize your channel, but I never thought I could get to that point. But then seeing somebody else who was like me, and she was doing the videos. And so I started kind of watching her videos, and she gave me a ton of great advice, and we would have like video chats and things like that. I was like, okay, I think I can do this. And so I just jumped in feet first, and I can do this. I just got to find me. I got to find my voice, what I like to do, and like what works for me. And then I took the next steps and I started seeing my videos like increasing, and like the watch views. And I saw like the little pennies started trickling in. This was before they made you have like a certain watch time and a subscriber number. At the time, anybody could just turn on monetization and it would just get to the point where you could reach that $100 threshold and then they would pay you out. So I already gotten past that threshold when they changed their monetization situation. I think it's because they just had so many people trying to do it, they had to have like a cutoff. Anyway, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But with that, because I was doing video and a lot of people in our industry hadn't really done video yet, a lot of my companies were like, oh, you're doing video? Oh, well, we don't have anybody else. And so I was kind of at the beginning of that concept of doing video content with products from companies. So they would send me stuff and it wouldn't be like massive companies at first, but it's grown and grown. And then I went to another conference. I went to CHA, which the first year I went is when it switched to Creativation. And that's when all the big players in the creative industry would come. And I met up with some wonderful companies and they brought me on again to do video. So video has been like my shoe as a foot in the door about how to get content. So I'm making money from the company that's sending me products because they want video content or they want to be on my channel. YouTube's paying me, and then my blog or my website is also bringing in money. So it's just kind of, you make sure you don't have just one venue, you have your foot in a lot of different areas. You're constantly putting your feelers out to wherever you can. And now for me, it's not edited video content, long form, it's all the reels and the shorts and the TikToks. All the companies are wanting that content. And I started doing it a year ago, or a year and a half ago, actually. So there are like, in the past like 3 months, more and more companies like, hey, you doing those reels? Because they've started doing really well for me. And can we ask you to do some? And I'm getting to the point where I'm having to turn people away because I only have so many hours in my day, or I need an assistant, one of the two. Anybody have an assistant? Anybody know anybody? Wait, so I'm hitting this awesome threshold where like it's so much content, and which is great. So it can work. You just have to find what works for you. And I love video. I 100% thrive in it. I work great. I've figured out all the ins and outs of it, but it's taken me years to get there. So some people are really good about pictures. Some people are really good about, hosting events like these podcasts and summits. You got to find what works for you and then go just dive into it. And that's where you can start thriving and creating and making money with what you do and what you love.
And I think that's a really important point, what you said about having your sort of, you have to have your finger in a lot of pots, right? Because, unless you're, I can't even think, because as a creative, I have my finger in a lot of pots because there's different ways to do things. And I love having my finger in everything. And I find then you also, if something happens, like, a lot of people have had problems on social media and things like that with Facebook and Instagram, and all of a sudden they go from making money to not making money, and that's their only, income. And it's like, so when you have your finger in a lot of pots, you have, choices. And like, even for us, we've never really utilized the social media in the way that it probably could be. YouTube, we're starting to do a lot more, and to sort of build on that, because video is what people want. And, if I can just short, quick ones, then that's awesome. And it's all about being authentic and sharing, right? People want to know, people want to learn things, and so,
they want to connect.
Connect. That's
absolutely.
the authenticity part. And so, we've been starting to do more of that. And then our way, of course, is the summits, because we get to collaborate with so many amazing people like yourself, and different projects that we get to do. And from that, other projects, I've written a book, I've got another business with another person. I'm doing a live podcast, if you will, with another person, and they're all started as presenters, right? So you never know where that's going to go when you collaborate with others. Yeah.
You never know. And then I love also going to some of these other like just conferences or summits, like in-person stuff too, because you never know what conversation you're going to have with somebody. Here's a prime example. The last event, so they combined NAMTA and Creativation together into one show, just because, things have been in COVID and everything else. So it's all one show now. And I went to the last one that was in Florida. And one of the companies, he does sublimation. So he creates like the heat presses and the tumbler presses and all the different kind of blanks that you can do for sublimation. And I'd not heard of his company before, but I heard nice things about the company. And he brought 2 people to help in a system, and they both went home sick. So they left the show on like day 2. So he's tearing down a 10 by 20 booth all by himself on the last day. And I'm going, do you want some help? It's just like, hey, can I help you? Please, like you're doing this all by yourself. You have nobody to help you. All these other booths have like 10, 15 people tearing down, and he's looking at possibly being there for like 6, 7 hours, putting everything and tearing it up. I'm like, I'm happy to help you. Just in that little small period of time. And there was no like more than, can I please help you? I didn't have like an end game, like I'm going to work with you. It was just, you need an extra pair of hands. What can I do to help? I am a body. I have nothing to do. Show's over. Right. And it just, conversation. And then he took me out to dinner as a thank you. And then we just got to chatting, and, it actually ended up turning into a business relationship over the course of what we were, just because we kept chatting and talking. But you never know. I mean, put yourself out there. You never know what can happen.
Absolutely. Say yes. Say yes. Even if it's uncomfortable, say yes.
And just be nice. That's the other thing. Be a nice person. That's like a hands down. If you are a grumpy, mean person, you're not going to get very far. You be nice to people, and it makes a world of difference. Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah. Everybody wants to feel like they are valued and that they're appreciated. And when you make them feel this big, they're not going to, like, well, how does that help anybody? So yeah. Give somebody a smile, compliment them.
And don't go into all of these things with an end game, right? Like with a ulterior motive, if you will.
Yeah. Don't try to be that sneaky person off. No, it's just, I'm here to help you, and that's what I want to do. That's it.
Yeah. And I've found that has been the best way. Like I genuinely, yes. I'm like,
genuinely.
Genuinely. That's what I was trying to say. Genuinely. Yes. Anyway, sorry. Want to help people. That's why I started doing what I do. I want to help people. And that's growing into so much more because I have put myself out there to help people. And, really, if you are in service to others as an entrepreneur, you can't go wrong, right? Like, well, unless you don't charge them, in which case you can, because you'll go broke and you'll starve.
That has been my issue. Yeah, it's been like, how much do I charge people for doing this? And I think I started undercharging way too. So I'm having to build up my confidence to be like, no, I'm worth more than that. So that's the other side of it. Give yourself, and I'm working on that for myself, and I have people tell me, you're not charging enough. I'm like, okay, so good to know. Let me increase my rates a little bit, because I am of value and I need to respect myself for that too, and not undermine me either. And for everybody, you are worth more than you probably think you are.
Much more.
And I'm to listen to myself on that one too.
It's a journey we all go through. Through. Well, Erin, I want to thank you so much for being here. And is there any final thoughts that you'd like to add for our listeners today?
If anybody is interested, you can check me out on my social media. But if you go to my website, erinreedmakes.com, I have at the top of the list, you can see that it's my main page, my store, my blog. I also have a whole link up there for freebies. And they're freebies for printable files, for downloadable SVGs. So you can do cut files, you can do sublimation. There's a whole slew of things that you can do for card making or general crafts. It's kind of kids' craft ideas. So if you want to go grab yourself a fun freebie, it is there. They're absolutely free. It says $0 on there. So you just can kind of download it and it's yours. So go and enjoy and create and have fun.
I love that because I think, it's so important for us to create. And so we'll make sure all the links are there so that they can find you easily. And again, I just want to thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, it's always fun. Love to be back anytime.
To our listeners, we will see you again next time. And in the meantime, I wish for you amazingly creative days. Thank you for listening. If you found our podcast of interest, we'd love for you to leave a review wherever you listen in.